Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time round, we're checking out the post-apocalyptic cyberpunk dystopia of Soul Crusher. This is a CAC Award runner-up, a 9-level total conversion mod that takes you on a journey of revenge against a corporate dictator overlord who also just happens to be your brother. Seriously though, there's enough story going on in this mod to fill a small novel, and if I decided to focus on that, I'd probably need to make an entire other video, but for the time being, just to keep this brief, we're going to be focusing on the meat and potatoes of Soul Crusher, being the gameplay, and, well, obviously how it looks too. And on that subject, you can certainly say that this is a very visually striking mod. At first glance, you may be tempted to say that it's in fact quite garish in its application of lighting and use of colors. For the most part, however, it's applied with a fair degree of consistency across the levels here, meaning that after a while, you mostly get used to Soul Crusher's aesthetic. Personally speaking, there wasn't really anything that would cause my eyeballs to bleed here. I mean, it works, and the use of textures is pretty damn nice as well. It's just that I found it kinda unusual. Can't really blame a mod such as this for wanting to visually stand out, I guess. As for the weaponry, you'll have no doubt noticed that these offerings seem fairly atypical as well, especially in the design department. This is a grenade launcher. Very different from most grenade launchers I've actually seen in most mods. In fact, it reminds me quite a lot of the grenade launcher out of Resident Evil, or maybe I'm just thinking of the ammo cases that you pick up for it. Specifically, the acid grenade launcher rounds, considering this too is an acid grenade launcher. In any case, it comes replete with 2 fire modes, like most of the weapons here in Soul Crusher. Primary just fires 1 canister, secondary fires all 3 at the same time. Quite good for taking down small groups, or maybe that one singular hefty enemy. A little further up the list, we get our hands on the incendiary shotgun, a shotgun that shoots fire. Honestly, no better way to describe it, really. It's a fire-shooting shotgun. It's great. Its alt-fire is actually a grenade launcher, but where this differs from the acid grenade launcher is that the rounds here are a tad more explosive and pack a significantly bigger punch. Quite effective against larger groups of enemies, of which you will most assuredly run into during the course of Soul Crusher, as well as inexplicably floating mutants and heavily armored boss-type enemies too. Seriously, not much can stand up to several grenade rounds launched directly into its face. Laser rifle, folks, we got a laser rifle over here, and yes, it does indeed go pew 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 in a rapid-fire style fashion, but that's not all! It does have an alt-fire, and to be perfectly honest, it kinda sucks. It's like a concentrated railgun style shot. It's actually kind of hard to land a direct hit with the thing every now and again, and it doesn't really deal as much damage as I'd like, so yeah, when it comes to mowing fellas down with the primary fire, it's a-okay, but that alt, Can't fault it for the design though, because whoo, that is a nice looking sci-fi weapon, I gotta say. It's just a shame that it doesn't seem to pack as much punch as its design may imply. Hey, do you like bubbles? Everyone likes bubbles. How about a gun that shoots deadly bubbles? Actually, I'm pretty sure this is some kind of sonic wave emitter and not, in fact, a lethal bubble launcher, but a man can dream and should probably look at the weapon descriptions a little more often before he makes his videos. But in either case, this is actually tremendously effective, deals quite a lot of damage against the whatever goopy abominations you happen upon in this mod, and it's probably one of the weapons that I relied upon the most. Tremendously effective in the realm of crowd control. You can generally just wail on crowds of enemies with this thing, and they will typically fall down dead in double quick time. The missile launcher is not too shabby in its own right, deals a lot of very hefty direct damage. Alt-fire pretty much just does rapid fire, and thankfully, despite only having 3 barrels, you don't really need to reload this thing, which is nice. The Concussion Rifle here is, to be honest, a little disappointing to use. It seems like it should be badass. It sits somewhere between the bubble gun and the missile launcher, and it just it just doesn't really feel like it has quite enough oomph behind it. The rate of fire is actually quite slow, and the amount of damage it deals means that you're probably going to have a better time switching to something else and bringing those enemies down quicker. You can load multiple rounds into the chamber with the alt fire on this one, delivering a higher concussive blast, which is neat, but yeah, not as satisfying as it could be. These enemies, though, they're great. Sometimes they'll spring up. If you cut them in half, the upper half will come back to life and try and shoot you. Other occasions, you may have witnessed in this video already, you shoot them and their heads pop off, and they just start bouncing around all over the place. It's pretty neat. I love little touches like that. And then there's this thing. This is a weapon that I managed to completely miss during my main playthrough of Soul Crusher. This is the game's resident uber weapon, and pressing the regular old fire button here does nothing. Nothing at all. No, you've got to prime this thing by pressing alt fire to lock on, and then you better be stood very far back because it'll probably kill you. In terms of that first obvious drawback, you also only really get one round to shoot from this thing, and I can't imagine that the rounds for this weapon will be easy to come by, and in all honesty, it's not really all that bombastic to actually unleash, which is a little bit of a shame. I mean, when it comes to an uber weapon, you want fireworks, and unfortunately, I don't feel like it quite delivers on that particular front. So how about them maps? Well, they're certainly complex for one, almost to a fault. Certainly to a fault, in my opinion. This map in particular, which I think was map 4, I got lost, seriously lost. There's some great big fat blaring objective markers on the auto map here, which are intended to point you in the right direction, which is a godsend, but that still doesn't help, because this level in particular doesn't really do you any favors. You get this text that tells you a little bit of a hint of where to go, but then the text disappears real goddamn quick, and it says, you know, lower west side of the sector. Which sector? This side of the map? The entire map? I need a bit more specificity when it comes to my hints in a map such as this, and that led to a lot, and I mean a lot, of backtracking back and forth, revisiting areas that I'd already been, just in case I missed a switch or two. Figured it out after a while, though. It just was so well hidden and blended so much into the environment with all of the kind of cyberpunk industrial clutter around that I completely missed this friggin' door. Just this single, simple door that led into this terminal and then unlocks all of the troublesome, pissing, annoying doors that kept giving me the same dumb, crappy hint. I don't know, maybe it was just me completely missing the cues, but I am the kind of player where, in a level of sufficient complexity, especially one such as this, I'm probably gonna need a big flashing neon arrow or two just to make sure I am in fact headed in the right direction. And that's the kind of thing that's really hard to account for when building a map. You've got to make sure that the flow of a map is coherent, otherwise it can be very easy to lose the attention of the player. I wish I could say that the frustration I experienced in that map was an isolated experience, but unfortunately, it was something that I experienced quite heavily in a preceding level, in fact, which is this one, I believe, set in a prison where they're turning prisoners into horrifying mutants, which is a pretty cool idea for a setting, or it would be if I could find a friggin' way out. No matter how long I spent running around this level, poring over the auto map, wall humping, you name it, for the life of me, I could not figure out how to get through and access the thing that would let me leave the level. So after a while, I just clipped through a friggin' door because I was tired of running in circles, and it's something that threatened to happen in a few of the levels here. Thankfully, they never reached the giddy heights of irritation that this particular level right here inflicted on me, but it's not a good sign. Not a good sign with regards to the layout and design of a level when you spend more time running around than you do actually shooting things in the face. I think my frustration here was magnified somewhat by having to listen to the same soundtrack looped over and over for much longer than it was probably intended to be listened to here as well, and I can tell you, after a while, it doesn't half start to grate on the old eardrums. Which isn't to say that there aren't nice soundtracks to listen to during this mod. There's some pretty interesting tracks during some of these maps. It's just this one. Cool it on the orchestra hits, please. Believe it or not, Soul Crusher also features a fair number of boss battles too, which I always find fascinating to experience in a Doom mod, because for one, they're not all that easy to pull off. It's kind of tricky to design a good boss battle in a Doom mod, or a good boss battle in any FPS for that matter. What I quite like about this particular boss battle is the use of the bounce pads in the arena here to enable you to keep a little bit of distance between yourself and the boss. You'll also notice that we've got a few green bars at the top, as well as the health count of the enemy above that as well, which seems a little bit of an overkill of information there, but as far as I can tell, the 3 bars relate to the phases of the bosses themselves, and I do enjoy a good old multi-phase boss fight, things that switch up midway through or in the final third, and this is something that is in fact repeated throughout many of the boss battles here in Soul Crusher. As I mentioned earlier, there's an almost impenetrable amount of story going on alongside the action here in Soul Crusher, and it's unfortunately not all that efficiently doled out. Before certain boss battles, as you can see here, you'll have a fair amount of back and forth between your character and the character that you're about to shoot in the face, and for me, after a while it just boiled down to, well, I am bad because of this reason, well, I'm good because of this reason, bad, good, and then we killed each other. That's all very fine and dandy, but I like to cut to the chase every now and again. I like my story to be a little bit more efficiently doled out than well, this. I mean, just to underline what I'm on about here, before you even start Soul Crusher, there's an intro screen where the menu usually pops up, and that has several minutes worth of backstory, and if you're not aware of that, you'll skip right past it, go straight into the game, and just be completely unaware of all this extra side story stuff that you probably should know before going in, and I just can't help but think there could have been a better way of conveying this information in the game. I mean, there's all of these computer terminals littered around the levels. Why not just put a bit of information and side story and backstory in those? And that would add a little bit more incentive to the exploration of the levels themselves. It would make it a little bit more worthwhile to actually get lost within them. If I have to sum up how I feel about Soul Crusher, I'd have to say that for me this is a fascinatingly flawed mod. I mean, it's undeniable this mod certainly has its own unique flavor and personality. It's certainly quite unlike the majority of other total conversion mods out there. I mean, what other mod lets you fight against hordes of what I can only regard as cybernetic walruses? But even considering such joyful wonders, I do find it kind of hard to recommend Soul Crusher. Despite the fact that this is the product of 4 years of just one guy's work, I gotta say that the frustration kinda outweighs the enjoyment. And I'm not just talking about the frustration of navigating the levels, as I said earlier on. I'm talking about how in the late game here it does kind of run out of ideas, runs out of steam. And this situation right here with this giant horde of cybernetic walruses, this repeats itself, and it feels more of a stalling tactic to pad the time out between the next boss encounter more than anything else. It doesn't really feel like much of a challenge, it just feels more of a tedious chore, which is just a shame. But as I said when I tried to sum this up, fascinatingly flawed, certainly interesting, and if you're in the market for that kind of thing, you could do far worse than check out the link in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments below, and feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me check out in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.